Welcome back, guys. Welcome to the Outsider Insider podcast, featured by Blue Water Voss. All right, subscribe, and Ahmed will. I don't know. He'll give you a gun. Show me your guns, buddy.
Good. Right here.
All right, he's always locked and loaded, as you can see. So, all right. So, thank you for coming back. Now, obviously, this is the second video that we're gonna do. Now, obviously, lots to talk about in the news. So, Ahmed, what do you think about the Trump Halo figure?
I think he really did deliver on what we talked about earlier, and he's pumped the markets like never before.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
he probably hadn't before, but um, very good outlook right now.
Yeah, so as we mentioned on yesterday's video, we were talking about how the markets are very manipulated because it's one person can easily say something and the stock market shoots up by 5%, which again in a normal market should not be the case, right? In a capitalistic market, if one company fails, it should not be dragging down 100 other companies with it, but a voice of one person should not be pumping up whatever company. Now, pretty much because he did this. Now, nobody knows why the hell this happened, but GameStop for some reason just said PS5 wins. All right, I think this was because Halo said, or Xbox, Microsoft pretty much just said Halo is going to come to all consoles this year and not just exclusively to Xbox. And then GameStop's like PS wins, awesome, so amazing, right? Sony wins. But then guess what happened? Then Trump tweets out a photo of him in AI of him dressed up as the Halo character. So, that's awesome. But it rallied GameStop stock by 5%. But again, one thing I do want to mention is none of this was set, Trump didn't even mention GameStop. So him just in doing that manipulated the price again by 5%, which again just shows our point that anybody's markets right now can just easily say something, do something, or a certain people, obviously not everybody, and they can do something and all of a sudden things change. And insane, crazy to see.
That implied narrative we discussed earlier had an effect on the rare earth metals after he publicized as well. So what Rav just said, just to reiterate, narrative is very important, and Trump just showing up and putting that Halo post on his social media page
Yeah,
had
it's crazy.
such an effect on GME, and potentially because GME is a meme stock will have an AMC. We're not sure. We'll speculate later in the video, but right now we're really trying to focus in on the implied effect of that narrative on not the Halo narrative, but Donald Trump coming out and creating a deal with Xi Jinping on the rare earth metals. So if you want to continue
Jump
off
in.
where you started with me earlier,
Yeah, so this
yeah,
goes to show the second point of the rare earth mineral stock. So, guys, if you bought with your boy, the USA, anytime in the recent future, anytime in the recent past, and you bought any of the big name companies that were going to revolutionize the industry, guess what happened? You just got dumped on today. 20% losses across the board. And why did this happen? It's because scarcity that was going to happen with rare earth minerals, which again are not rare, it's processing that's rare, was making it so that people were pumping up these stocks. Why? Because the USA and Trump said so. But then what happened afterwards? Apparently now they're close to a deal. So China and the USA are close to a deal. And what that did was that just rallied up in the negative way for all these same stocks. So all the gains that people gained in the past few days, it just got wiped out. Again, further implies the same narrative that one man is controlling the economy, which is another reason why we're like, if somebody really wants the economy to go up, which I see no reason why Trump wants to crash the economy. The economy can not the economy, the stock market. The stock market can stay relatively as high as you want, especially when people just continue to listen. So obviously now there are real reasons why the stocks will go down. Obviously, if scarcity goes away, all of a sudden those stocks will come down. But it just goes to show you, right? So don't speculate after the fact. Just I put my money in three things: drones, energy, and real estate. And it just goes to show you again. Well,
I would also I like that thesis as well. It's a very solid thesis and investment strategy. But I really think the AI sector, and that's why that's what's really backing the energy logic there. Correct.
yes, correct.
Um,
It's pretty much
I
the
think
only thing.
anything under the veil of the AI sector can be used, and I think that AI can be looked at as an innovative space, and I see AI and crypto as one space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it'd be very inclusive, especially for the young people out there. I think there's an age demographic that's becoming more and more conscious, and I think that they're tuning into the video. And you're very welcome to join the community if you want to stay sharp and on top of things. I welcome you. Please hit the subscribe button.
And if you want to please
But
mustache like your boy Ahmed, you get that only by subscribing.
we're definitely going to talk about these subjects in depth and more nuance. And just to add to what Rav just said, within the concept of rare earth metals, the supply right now, due to this agreement between China and America, it's a lot higher. And I like how you added the detail of it's not really the rare earth metals that are rare themselves; it's the process that you need to go through to refine them. Kind of like through way of analogy, oil and gas, the oil and gas sector. There's a whole process where some gas you pull it, extract it out of the earth, and then you have to refine it, and then you get access to this. And so that serves a really big portion of the economy in certain parts of the world. We know Saudi money is all oil and gas money,
Mm,
and I think this would be a really good place to talk about how Alberta, within the context of Peter Lougheed, and we've talked about this prior.
mm-hmm.
Me and Rav talked about how leadership can sometimes be very very on point, and basically still things can still go wrong. So
Yeah. Well,
Trump, yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, continue. I want to hear your point.
So like right now, Trump has played with the narrative up, left, right, and center, and we're trying to discern: does this work within the best interest of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and does this, from the interpretation of leadership? Uh, do you think this is the best move to kind of you want to know? Because I can't really need I'm almost struggling to read the narrative. He goes full in on tariffs, and
Yeah.
then now he's accepting to reduce the tariffs. So
Well, like before we jump into Pierre Lougheed, which I'm happy you mentioned because that's a very good conversation for today. Because guys, this is going to be a news channel, but it's also going to be just a focus on investing and different topics, right? Just stuff that goes through our head. But so let's start with point one. So in terms of leadership, now I like here's how I say it. I don't like this for the long term. For the short term, it's fine because it's going to pump up gains and volatility is where a lot of people make money. I don't know if you've seen the stats from banking, like J.P. Morgan and stuff, and Goldman.
yeah.
Do you know these guys are making record trading? Like they actually do day trading at these firms as well, and they're making records because what happens is if you know for a fact a blue chip company is going to go 5%, it's a very likelihood tomorrow it's going to go up by another 6%. You can make very good bets on it, and that's the environment we're in right now. And Trump is kind of the dude which is like Xi Jinping is a bad leader. Xi Jinping is this. China is garbage. We don't need China. To China, this leader is great. Blah blah blah. Like the taco analogy. Do you know what the taco analogy is?
No, yeah.
All right. So let me get off the exact acronym because wanted to show it to you. But so there's people are calling it the taco analogy. Okay, and pretty much what it means is here. Let's see. Trump always chickens out. Now, Trump, I am not attacking you, okay? But that's the taco analogy because he says, I'm going to do this. And then right before it's about to happen, he backs out. Like, for example, he's like, I'm going to add tariffs on this date. Then I'm going to give a 90-day thing, right? So, manipulation of the stock market. Sorry, I think I just, there we go. So, yeah, manipulation of the stock market is there. I can see it there, right? Now, long term, this is what the issue is. Whether you like Trump, whether you don't like Trump, I don't want my investments to be dictated on the problem one man. Because what happens if Trump passes away tomorrow? What happens if the next president of the USA is very anti-investment, right? You don't know. And so if you don't know this information, I don't want somebody in the same position who's going to be sending my bags downwards just because they can. Doesn't make sense to me. So short term, yeah, it's great. You can look at the record profits, you can look at this, and you can look at that. But over the long term, it's not a good idea. Now, I'm happy you brought up the like oil and
You're
gas
lost.
analogy. Yeah, so
Mhm.
like I think when you look at investments like
Yeah.
oil and gas, right? In most of the trade agreements here with Canada are Kuzma compliant, which means we're not going to be paying high tariffs on it anyway. So we're pretty chill on the tariff situation. You could drop another 10% tariff however you want, right? But it's Canada who got themselves into the situation, and it gets Canada who gets out, right? But again, there's a reason why it sucks as a Canadian. We're talking about USA technology. We're talking about USA data centers. We're talking about USA investments, and we're not talking about Canada. And it's because Canada has not been there, right? And so the reason we're talking about Trump is because the USA stock market has outperformed pretty much every single thing since existence, other than if you want to bring in crypto, obviously in the last few years, correct? But
Mm.
yeah, it's there, man. It's interesting.
I think one of the topics that you've talked to me in depth on, and I think our subscribers would probably benefit from hearing, and I certainly was, it piqued my interest to say the least. Within the context of leadership, something that Peter Lougheed proposed
Yeah.
that Alberta would do, and if we had listened, we would have been in a very good
Yeah,
financial
we would be the
position.
richest
And
province in the world, man. We would be the richest
I,
province in the world.
I don't mean to obscure or make this vague. It's in the realm of the hundreds of billions. So
Yeah,
on a province level, that has some like implications within that are 100% would shift the narrative of Alberta being first or second. It would 100% be first in the
yeah.
world. We would.
So pretty much, Ahmed is very excited about this conversation, and so am I. So, if you've never heard of the Heritage Fund, I don't blame you because it's a very old concept when Peter Lougheed was back to when he was, the leader. Now, what the Heritage Fund was, Peter Lougheed was a very smart fella, and he could understand that eventually oil and gas is going to be obsolete. No one's going to need it eventually, right? Right now we need it, but that does not mean that tomorrow we're going to need it, or a decade from now we're going to need it, or a century from now. So, on a province that only makes its money, and trust me, it only makes its money from oil and gas, what is the best way to make your hedge against the future? That is going to be investing. And so, what Peter Lougheed had done in the Heritage Fund was some of the money that we're making from gas and oil today, that he was going to invest that into the economy. He was going to invest that into a stock portfolio, however he wanted to invest it, and he would be making roughly a good return on it. And so, pretty much, if everything had gone to plan, if nobody took out money, they initially put in, I believe it was $6 billion, something like that. Today, it would be worth around $250 billion. Now, that means no money added to the fund. It just keeps reinvesting itself. And that would have been making us somewhere between $6 to $10 billion worth, $6 to $15 billion worth of revenue a year, which is more than enough to cover all of our profits from oil and gas today. So if we just listened to what the genius of this man had done, and we did absolutely nothing else, instead of taking money out of this fund, we would have been in a completely different trajectory. We would probably be the richest. We would not probably. We would be the richest province in all of Canada, just because of one simple decision that a leader had made. And again, I always tell people, look at the Heritage Fund. I know when I showed it to you, Ahmed, you were like, I can't believe nobody's even talking about this. I can't believe no one's even thinking about this, and it's crazy to me. But now, imagine what would have happened if we actually went through with his whole idea and kept reinvesting every year instead of a one-time year.
The
Yeah,
full implied effect
we
would be larger than OpenAI's current
yeah, we
collective.
would be at $800 billion worth of investments. And do you know what that means with that amount of investment? We would be literally, we could pretty much substantiate we could pay off the entire, all of Canada for years. And this is what happens when you compound interest. And this is what happens when you invest right from the beginning, right? You can't think about just today. You have to think about the future. Now, what happened to the Heritage Fund, Ahmed? What happened to it, buddy?
Well, it was mismanaged, and
Yes.
we're probably in a worse off position. Not probably 100% worse off position, because if we had doubled down like you suggested,
Mm-hmm.
it would have went from 200 billion to 800 billion.
Yes.
Now that is way larger than OpenAI's, from what I currently know,
Yes.
$500 billion in valuation. That's
Yes.
like a three, and that's only on an Alberta level. That's just
Uh-huh.
Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a
And again,
Canada-wide.
that AI, the all speculation. It doesn't make the profits to
Yeah,
be that amount of company.
exactly.
It's about future
They're
projections.
making that's yeah,
Six
further
billion
nuance.
dollars.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
if you would explain that, the revenue from OpenAI is not a good value proposition to estimate their net. Is that what you're suggesting,
Yeah,
right?
because it's
At
about what the value of
500 billion,
what you're putting it at. I could put it at 500,000. I could put it at 500 million, 500 trillion, whatever you want to say for your market cap, right? But
let me
yeah,
rephrase the question for you.
uh-huh,
What would you, from a cash flow perspective,
uh-huh.
uh, providing a product and getting as a service
Hmm.
and getting a return on it, what would you say OpenAI actually is evaluated at a fair price for OpenAI, although it's
It
private?
Oh man, it's $6 billion, right? Like the thing is, speculation is so hard to manage because you're talking about tomorrow's revenues, not today, right? So but
Yes.
it's clearly like under like this is how I think about it. If you actually were gonna buy OpenAI, how much
Yeah.
would the value be at? And
Um,
I think substantially less. The reason why is there's two issues. It's a non for profit. They're trying to turn it into a for profit, but Elon Musk is heavily fighting them against it. And so I think
hmm.
they had a bid for like it was like if I'm not mistaken, it was like $60 billion, like actual cash
Wow,
money.
So right now we're at 500 billion in
In market cap. Yeah, it's the most valued
yeah,
private company.
which is six. That's a 10x multiple to the downside.
Yeah, but like you got to
That,
think like on like really expensive S&P 500s, it's like 30%. It's like 30 times. So
and what I meant, the reason I asked this question is to magnify the true intrinsic value of 200 billion to 800 billion, right, Raf?
mhm.
So that's what his argument is. His argument is that 800 billion would have butterfly effects within the economy. On the quality of life within Alberta would be completely differentiated from what it
It
is now.
would. And
But
so like
I think one thing to mention before we continue. Sorry to cut you
yeah,
off,
yeah.
but um, you talked to me in depth on the Nordic countries and how
Uh-huh.
that
They have their
strategy under that
sovereign.
kind of
Mhm.
their funds are something that I think you guys are going to like listening to. So you go ahead,
Yeah.
Raven.
But I'll let you talk about that because I know you like them. But imagine today in Canada, if you from your Alberta, if we're from anywhere, instead of having to, worry about housing, you have the strongest infrastructure in the world because you have just so much revenue that you could literally pay dividends out. In Alaska, they do it. In the sovereign countries like we were talking about, those countries pay their citizens dividends, and we would have had the strongest dividend. Now imagine another country where Alberta has the strongest private wealth fund in the world with $800 billion. And now every company from the USA, every company who's a startup would want to come to us because they want funding for their stuff, right? Like, do you know the Alberta Teachers Union? It's one of the biggest wealth funds in the world, right? It's Ontario's wealth fund, crazy amounts of money. Let me search up exactly how much money they have. But the reason why I'm bringing it
Hmm.
up is, one second, let's just see, Ontario Teachers Fund, pension fund. There we go.
Having that kind of $800 billion liquidity
Okay, listen,
would
listen.
make us a
Okay,
hub of some sort.
the
Yes, a
Ontario
trading capital.
Teachers Pension Fund, okay, the OTPP has $269 billion in of money. Now, remember what I told you. Alberta had the potential chance of just if they invested nothing else, just let that money sit of being at this exact same level. And now imagine, okay, imagine now that instead of this you had 100 billion, you had 800 billion. Oh my god, man! You're telling me Alberta would have been bigger than Ontario, Toronto, Vancouver combined? We would have been one of the biggest countries. And again, when you have that amount of money, there is no limitation on what you can do for your citizens, right? Better healthcare, better freedoms. You can pay for a lot of stuff. You can help a lot of people need it. But one of the things I think a lot of people don't think about when it comes to this amount of money is what are so now here's a question. That's what we could have had. So now what do we have
Mhm.
today? A healthcare system that's taken to the edge, money that's you don't have, fighting teachers unions on money. Now, who's ever right or wrong? It's just clearly bad decisions have led up to the position that we're in today, right? Like even if let's just say tariffs happen, but you're making more than enough revenue just from investment returns, bro. You have enough money where you can do anything. You have no stress. Trump's like, well, at 100% tariff. Yeah, that's fine, man. We can sustain our entire economy for years because we decided to do the smart decisions, and but they did not at that moment in time. And obviously, we're gonna suck for that for the meantime. But it's very interesting. Now, the Nordic countries. Why don't you tell us something about those?
I think not only the Nordic countries. I think in retrospect to Canada too. Canada, we're still very privileged being the neighbors of America. Our economy directly correlates and benefits.
Oh yes,
But from this comparative analysis that we're suggesting, the 800 billion and the lack of the 800 billion and its comprehensive implied effects on the average Albertan. Um, I think the notion of our younger generation is dealing with the current conversations that we're having are, is my job safe,
yes,
and will AI take my job?
yeah. Or will
Will
the
those
USA
are,
take my job?
and remember that these people have spent 4 years of their life, time is money, in whatever bachelor's degree trying to get. So I'm trying to bring the context of this person has already allocated a substantiated amount of energy and money and whatever form of allocation, money, time, same thing.
Uh-huh.
In comparison to the Nordic countries that used the correct framework of leadership, the implied result they have is they have what third world countries would look at as first world problems.
Yeah. They have true socialistic democracy.
Yeah, but we're oriented in a way that we should have benefited from the same kind of
100%.
we're kind of socialist in some
Mm-hmm.
ways from um but we don't have nearly as the same benefits. And one of the conversations that me and Rav had that kind of layers onto this is that we don't even have, like, within the context of crypto, Trump made it easier for you as a citizen in America to buy an American made crypto and not have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
Like, that pivot could change the liquidity for the company itself.
Well, you know,
That
remember,
implied effect to not have to worry about taxation
well,
would
like
make
we
me want
mentioned,
to.
sorry to cut you off now, but you are the richest Canadian is CZ,
Crypto.
the guy who owns Binance.
Yeah.
But wait
Yeah.
a second, what did we do to the guy? We kicked his platform out of Canada. We did this, we did that. It's the richest guy in Canada, and now what's he doing? He's in the USA, pardoned, relaxing, and he's building the infrastructure of the USA. So Canada just shot itself in the foot again. The richest guy we had, who was building tomorrow's technology, we shot him in the foot.
To add insult to injury, prior to this, Donald Trump suggested that Canada can be something to consider as an expansion on America. So what I
Yeah.
mean by that is he could just claim Canada as USA through
Uh-huh.
some sort of tariff. Like, we would be, when we come to the table to discuss this with that $800 billion in mind, we would
Uh-huh.
have a lot more say in what the fuck Canada. Sorry to say the swear the F word, but like, it's just that large of a number that it would actually give us a lot more merit. We would be
Of
the trading
course.
hub.
Yeah,
We would
like
be the ones to be considered to do trades with.
of course,
So
because look at the rich. Like again, look at the OTPP. Look at the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. It's half the money in there is the amount of money that Elon Musk is worth. That's a lot of money that you're able to use to build your infrastructure. But now Ontario's biggest issue is they went fully into auto. So their auto sectors, their steel sectors, which are the biggest in Canada, are fully demolished. They're getting demolished. In Alberta, we're very relatively safe because oil and gas is not something that the USA directly has hold of. But do you know
I don't
another?
mean to cut you off.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm genuinely asking you a question here
Uh huh.
because it popped up. So when Trump was negotiating
Yeah.
the, Canada being Canada
Hmm.
and America, that dynamic of what they own and what they're looking to
Yeah, yeah,
have,
yeah.
the cars were the first thing he talked about.
100%.
We don't need new cars. He went up on, to the media, to put this narrative out that we do not need Canadian cars. What that does to the Canadian dollar, what that reflects on the Canadian dollar, the value, intrinsic value, is it's an attempt to reduce its say when it comes to the discussion, when it's, you know what I mean, tariff discussions and so on.
Well,
So what do
you
you
need
think?
leverage, right? You need
What,
leverage, right? Like
yeah,
if me and you are negotiating for a business deal, and I'm like, yo, Ahmed, guess what? I have a business idea. I have no business plan. I have absolutely no experience in this. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna write me a check. You're gonna pay for anything. You're gonna pay my taxes. You're gonna pay for everything, and you're gonna buy me
yeah,
this property so that I can live in it while I'm building this business. And you are gonna get 40% ownership. I'll take 60%. Why the hell would I do the deal? Why the hell do I even need you? And that's kind of the predicament that kind of is in. And I love Canada. Canada is in my opinion the greatest country in the world. And I mean, you've had extensive conversations about this, but I'm a Canadian till I die. I love Canada. But one thing I don't think people understand, and it's, Bill, right now we're fighting the USA direct on, like Doug Ford, for example. I understand his economy is hurting. Nobody wants to speak about how much the steel is destroying Canadian businesses, right? In Canada, you don't see the unemployment as high because obviously a lot of our stuff is in oil sector. Now it's becoming a data hub of the world. Like Calgary, just particularly in Alberta, has had so much smart people move into it recently. A lot of people, like, infrastructure is being built here. Now, it is still
I
on
think
such a slow
just
pace.
so I don't mean to cut you off. Just to interject before you shift the context. The
Hmm.
context that you were providing, the context that you're addressing right now, is what's it called? You were talking about the job sector,
Uh-huh.
correct?
Yes.
I just forgot what I was about to say,
Hmm.
but that you continue.
That's all good. It's all cut me off when you remember. But
I I'll remember.
yeah.
I'll remember.
But one
Oh yeah,
thing,
I literally just remembered. The data that comes up for jobs, isn't it lagging?
it's always lagging. It's always 1 month behind.
So our perception of employment is always
Is
a step
last month.
behind.
It's not this month. It's the same thing with real estate, right? Everything that you're going to get data on
Yeah,
is going to be of the past. It's never going to be of the future, right? You can only have predictions. But
yeah, yeah.
I like one thing we have to remember, man, is so we've already showcased with the Heritage Fund. If some choices were made better by different politicians or different actors in our economy, we would have been in a different predicament today. Just for example, another one. I'm not here to hate on Trudeau, not here to hate on Mark Carney, right? Like, but During, like, if we look at actual numbers, when was the last time Canada was in a primal position to be one of the greatest countries in the world? Stephen Harper, and that was 2014,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
I
I
was
do.
I was a kid. Me and you were young. We did not understand politics in this case, but strongest middle class in the world, had great minimum wage compared to what you could afford. So, but the real dream was being able to be built, right? Now, during that time, there was a lot of very
I
harsh
agree with you.
immigration jobs, and yeah, but there's always problems in every way facet you go, right? But one thing we got to remember is we've been there before, so it can be done again. But we have to make smart decisions. We can't do dumb decisions. One another bad decision that I do think that Canada does worse on is, first of all, we have the biggest economy right down to the south, and we should be producing as much oil and gas for them as possible. We want them dependent on us. We want to be their drug. Secondly, though, is you don't just need
Keystone XL pipeline.
yeah, you
I
don't
think that's
just
something to
need
consider the
yeah,
cancellation during Biden.
yeah, you don't
Do you remember when that happened?
yeah, it's been canceled so many times
Yeah.
and put on, man, and there's so
Yeah.
much money being wasted from it, right? So at one point, just do something or don't do anything. But one thing I don't think people understand is that oil can be used. You can process that oil here too. We process to the USA, and then the USA sells back to us as processed, right? That doesn't make any sense either. But what it looks like is there's so much fat if we're looking at Canada as a business, where you're just giving money to pay people who are just staying at home and doing nothing, right? So and like that's just a pure analogy. I'm just trying to say
My question to you, because this analogy just makes me think: if you were in, let's say, you were in a political position to
yes.
uh, respond to Trump's claim that we don't need your cars,
Mm-hmm.
I think the best response to that would be, we can process our own oil.
I get, but you can fight fire with fire, right? Now, one thing,
Yeah,
like again, from what I've seen with Trump, is like this.
but did they do that though? Did our structure allow for that
No,
response?
we didn't. Our structure is so slow and so bad
That's
that,
pretty sad. That's
yeah,
pretty sad.
and that's the predicament that we've found ourselves in today, right? And now we,
Yeah,
we sit here with our dick in our hands and just not being able to do anything about it. And I hate
yeah,
to use that
yeah.
analogy, but literally what it is, we're literally looking at our country getting destroyed because we allowed it to. Now that
I
doesn't
couldn't
mean,
agree more.
uh,
Well, you mentioned Doug Ford and you mentioned Trudeau compared to Stephen Harper.
mhm,
I think to empiricize and further enforce
mhm.
what you suggest, because I agree with you, is that if you look at the leadership that either working within the best interest of Canadians, I'm not trying to talk smack. I'm just being as objectively as possible. Doug Ford's net worth during COVID
Yeah, it was yeah.
and
What was it?
Justin Trudeau. Yeah, Justin Trudeau. I'd say 1 to 50 million net worth.
Yeah. He's very rich, man. He's, I think, $100 million worth of rich now.
And then let's put I don't um let's put Trudeau in the same kind of objective reality. He gets paid about 400K to be a year
Yeah.
to be prime minister,
Canadian.
president. No, definitely not the president, but
Yeah.
you can't be a president in Canada. And his net worth closer to 90 million. So you
hmm
tell me, as the average citizen, that's unbiasedly, speculating as to, is Doug Ford slash Trudeau, the same framework of thinking, working within his best interest or the best interest of the country?
I see, but there's the problem. Even if it's 50-50, that's wrong. The only reason you should be in a political role is to do the best, not
Yeah,
for yourself. It's a selfless conquest. But we make
exactly.
it.
But with
Yeah.
Carney,
Yeah.
I like what Carney's doing. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Carney's a banker.
Yeah.
Do you
I
think
like
a
your face.
banker can seriously?
Uh-huh. I want people to understand a couple of things. Again,
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you about my complete political views. I don't find myself as a conservative. I don't find myself as a liberal. I'm literally in the middle. To me, it does not matter what party's in power as long as the party is the right party for the job. And all I want to see is the right stuff being done. Because again, like we mentioned, there have been positions not even a decade ago where Canada was one of the greatest countries to be a part of. And it still is. Canada is not broken, but Canada
Just
is
a
bleeding.
question.
Yeah.
Would you round 800 billion to a trillion? I would.
100%.
So you're talking about $1 trillion worth
Yeah,
of loss.
33% of our
Yeah.
GDP.
Well, I cannot more to show you that I agree with you and more. I think 1 trillion is exactly the empirical value that I agree with you.
It'd probably
Losing
be
a
at a
trillion,
trillion by now, to be honest. Like
yeah,
again,
more.
like the main thing is compounding,
That's
right?
that's
Yeah, but our basic politicians are not doing this, right? So what I would change is, if you want to be in a member of parliament, first thing you have to do is you have to surrender. You can't own investments, right? Like imagine if you have the right now for Mark Carney, and
so
again,
you
no
can't.
no damage to Mark
Let me
Carney.
hear you correctly.
Uh-huh.
You cannot be a banker.
No, you can't. But
I
here's the
agree with
thing.
that. I agree with
Yeah,
it. I actually
again,
agree with that
yeah,
sentiment. Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah. But again, or you could have been a banker, but you have to leave the roles particularly, right? You can't have investments. Now, obviously, that
You've talked to
sucks.
me.
That sucks.
You've
But
talked to me on this idea, and I really think that this is another idea that I think you should express to our listeners. I think listener, you should really pay attention to what Rob has to say here, and what he talked about with me earlier is profound. The the problem with housing and how the UK is dealing with their problem,
mhm.
and how with in retrospect to what you just mentioned
Hey,
that they
I'll
should not have
explain this. I'll explain this. Okay.
set
You know,
ownership
in
within the
Vancouver,
context. Yeah,
Vancouver's mayor. All right, he's now in more parliament. He's in more parliament control because now he's under Mark Carney, right? During him, what happened to Vancouver over the last 10 years? House prices went up ridiculous. He has many rental properties. He doesn't just have one. He has a bunch. So
so
if
can we say is he working his best interest of the country or his own
yeah,
best interest?
I'm not saying he's a
Exactly.
corrupt politician, right? But what I'm saying is when you don't need to be corrupt to still make a decision that's gonna benefit. Like, oh, it's you're like, okay, I could make this decision that 100% benefits Canadians, or I can make a decision that 80% benefits, 20% benefits me, right? Obviously, you're thinking yourself a life outside of politics. What's gonna happen when you're not a politician? You want to make sure you're comfortable for that. I understand, but that's why you should not join politics when you have no money. You should literally be like look at Singapore. In less than 100 years, it went from a third world nation who was abandoned trading post from the British to one of the number one global superpowers in the entire world in the economy wise. Right? It's fantastic what they've been able to do. And so, if they're able to do that, like I said, the potential for Canada is way more. I think Canada has the best potential in the entire world, but it needs to be run properly and decisions need to be made that are straight. Like again, do you know the thing with a country and a business is different is when a business fails, it will go bankrupt. When a country goes bankrupt, it just prints more money and it's out of bankruptcy. And you can't live like that because you got the livelihood of 100 Canadians and 100,000 Canadians. Right now, we're like 40 million population, right? But each of those 40 million people are very important to this economy. But we need to get to 100 million people. But we're not going to get to 100 million people by having the same old houses, by having the same roads, by having the same energy grid. Bro, Rogers went out again. Come on, Rogers. Your infrastructure keeps failing. We have three big companies controlling the economy for utilities. And man, why don't we allow the USA business to come in, give our people jobs again at the end of the world, man. At the end of the day,
Yeah, end of the
all you
day.
want is what would I do today if I was prime minister? I'll tell you, and then I'd like to hear from you as well. First thing I would do is I would make capital gains. So it's something that Pierre Poilievre, I know I'm butchering his name, he had said that he wants to make capital gains exempt or prefer or deferred if you reinvest in Canada. That's the perfect way because I know an enormous amount of people who have so much investments in the USA or who have so many investments here, like they own rental properties, and they'd love to get out. But when you're paying 30 to 40% in taxes, do you really want to sell that rental property? Hell no.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is exactly what I tried
yeah.
to. Yeah, this is where I wanted our conversation to go
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's not only on the investment portfolio side, it's our legal structure when it comes to being a place that is abundant or a logical next step
Mm-hmm.
for businesses.
Yeah.
We don't have the laws in place to make it something compelling to come
And
to Canada
yeah,
and to do business.
and I
And
love that.
that has adverse effects. That's to any person. I think anyone could see that.
You know,
And
I love
but
how you phrase that. You need incentives for business to come to Canada, and they're okay if they're not made here. We can happily have USA Mexican businesses to come to Canada to give our people jobs.
an example of this, just so I'm not working off of just words, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, man.
They're a crypto hub. Everyone wants to go there to do, but we have the same ability
Hmm.
to restructure our
We have
laws,
even
but we
more
don't.
ability. We have even more ability in Canada. But
Why would you want to go to the desert?
yeah,
Just say, just
instead of going to Banff, right? You want to go to Banff. But
exactly,
yeah, and
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
one law that I feel like that is something that Mark Carney can play with, and I think you should, right? Because there's $500 billion worth of investments
He
from
said something.
Canadians, huh?
Yeah, half a
That
trillion. Continue.
that's so right now in the USA stock market. Remember, the USA stock market is huge, around 20 trillion dollars, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
$500 billion, which is a good amount. That's almost 5%
That's
of the total
open AI.
stock. Yes, but I'm talking about of the Nasdaq, like the
It's
actual
500
full,
billion, five
yeah,
hundred billion of Canadian.
of
Yeah,
Canadian investments are in the USA. So why don't we give them a reason to exit them and come to Canada? Now, even like again, the one quick way to fight not having money in in your country to allow is by allowing people to come in and build the business they want because now they have the capital to. They don't have to pay 20%. They don't have to pay 30%. They don't have to pay 40%. And allowing that. The second thing I would do is, I don't know if you noticed, but the USA wants Canada. Have you noticed? Do you know what I would
Yes.
do to have sovereignty? Is I would create a UN, not a UN, sorry. What's the thing they have in Europe for the UK? The UK is no longer a part of it.
United
Not
Nations
United Nations. It's like it was all the
and
European companies, the European Union,
G20,
the European Union.
European Union.
So
Yeah,
you
I
can.
see.
Why don't we work on a deal where we do a European Union as an American Union between America to Canada and Mexico? Make it all look like it's under one a big country, right? It's not a separation like, oh, we have to join, become the 51st state. I don't think that's a great idea either. Obviously, there's many differences here. But one thing you should do is try to, because look at how globally diverse our economy is. It's not.
I think
It's
that's
only into the
definitely,
USA.
Rob. Don't get me wrong. I think that's definitely a solution,
Mm-hmm.
and it's definitely a good one. But in theory and practice, completely different things. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that one thing that comes up, and one question I have for you,
Mm-hmm.
is how would you change the, because the union would kind of give this connection to all these three countries
Yes.
within the context of America. I know that and I don't want to, throw rocks at them in a bad way or whatever. I don't want to bash the name, or I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I find U.S. to. I don't have any problems with the U.S. or any, in any way. I don't mean to diminish their value, but um, they have a lot of correlations with Latin America and the drug.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
They play a role in the economy.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to bring up.
Yeah, but can I ask you a question? I'm gonna ask you.
Regulating
Uh,
those laws would be really hard. That's all
it
I'm saying.
would, but this is how I would do it. All right. So, do you remember how there's a missile defense system now that's going to go around
Yeah.
Canada and the USA?
What's it called? The Golden
Golden Dome.
Dome or
Yeah,
something? Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
The Golden Dome. I have a question. We are
Yes.
literally 90% of our economy is diversified into the USA. Would you say so? I would say so. For a $3
Oh
trillion
yeah.
dollar country
We're that is
and half a
beyond. Yeah.
trillion. Yes. So if you're already so globally diverse, and I have a
Yeah.
question for you. All right, this is going to be a stupid analogy, but it's the only analogy I can think of on the top of my head. If you need a battery for a car, okay, all right. If you have an EV car, all right, you're driving your first EV, okay, buddy, and you have
Yeah.
two chargers. You have a supercharger to your left, sorry, a supercharger to your south. That literally is the strongest economy in the world, has the most amount of businesses in the entire world, has the strongest
Yeah.
banking system in the entire world, and
Yeah.
they have all this money that they can ability to pour into to grow infrastructure. Or you have a second regular charger to your right. That's just yourself looking for deals overseas to plug into your car. All right, which deal would you do? And I think to make the USA happy and to also benefit all the Canadians, because there's no Canadian who, like, bro, I gotta say this: Canadians and Americans are the exact same people. All right, do you know how many of my relatives live in California? Do you know how many of their relatives live in Canada? Everybody lives across up and across the border.
I always meet Alberta and then once to California. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're gonna be so diverse, we can
Yeah.
put our and the EU has done it. All the countries are still sovereign. They're all sovereign, but they're under one big organization with the European Union.
Yeah.
And why would we not benefit from that? If all the auto jobs, for example, if no longer is auto jobs being kept from Ontario and Detroit, or you're having to choose between where to move these jobs, but now it's under one big American Union. So now it doesn't matter where the money comes from. That would be the best case scenario for there. Would you not agree?
I think, Rob, the painting that you're painting makes sense to me too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's not as black and white as
Yeah,
that.
of
I'm
course,
not
it's a
saying
very
that.
difficult thing.
I think and now that you got me thinking about these subjects, the only reason that there's a concentration gradient between the borders, right, is to be, what I mean by that, a value concentration barrier,
Mm-hmm.
where as a result of being in country A and country B, you could manipulate that concentration barrier to benefit yourself disproportionately.
Yes.
So under the intention of we're all one collective,
Mm-hmm.
you would reduce that concentration barrier to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there wouldn't be a team that's more likely, in my opinion, to want to corrupt the law and want to profiteer off of that concentration
Mm-hmm.
barrier. So I think there's things in place right now that I don't know, and I can't claim to know because we're the outsiders,
Mm-hmm.
outsider
Outsider insiders.
conversation only.
Uh-huh.
But I think that the current structure, and even within Alberta and Canada, a lot of it's corruption. a lot of these contracts that the government makes
Mm-hmm.
are sometimes, and I could see this happen. I don't mean to be so skeptical, but I could see these contracts being, here's this guy's my relative. I'll just give him,
And
I'll give him,
stuff happens like that. Like you
along
see
the lines of
roads that in a different country or even in China would be done in a matter of days versus a matter of years, right? Like we've
that is
all.
actually the best analogy. I've
Uh-huh.
seen videos of this. It's like instantly done. Whereas like the Keystone XL pipeline or even the Calgary's LRT system, I don't mean to throw shade at the mayor. You're great, but like
He's new. He's new now. It was Jody before.
I think we had the greatest mayor in the world, Naheed Nenshi.
Yeah, Nenchi
He
was
was
great,
literally
right? Nenchi
so
went to
I'm not
Harvard, right?
debating.
Nenchi's a very smart individual, right? But
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
economy can grow really well, right? But to not be interconnected to the best economy in the world, like as we grow, as countries age, as technology improves, the barrier of what it means to be a Canadian, it's gonna change. All right, for
What I
me,
begin to question, Rav,
yeah.
is you said that China is very effective at just putting these roads together, and we seem to be lagging not only in efficiency when it comes to Peter Lougheed, like you
Mm-hmm,
mentioned, the 100,
mm-hmm,
the $1 trillion inefficiency, which is definitely an inefficiency.
mm-hmm.
But um, what you're telling me is, and I'm not someone to take sides of we should be communist only.
Yeah,
I'm not. I don't. I also
yeah.
don't
You're
think
not
that
a
we should.
communist.
I think the best answer is usually more nuanced than black and white.
Uh huh. Yeah, it's always somewhere in
The
the
best
middle.
answer the best answer relies on a continual progression to the upside and not a fixed idea.
Mm-hmm,
An idea, political ideology is fixed ideas. It's from what I heard, from what I've understood, it's the idea of law and society. They intermingle together,
mm-hmm,
and the society's consensus, what we, me, and you, Rav, and the rest of all the people watching, we come together and we agree on the best way to do something within the best interest of everyone.
mm-hmm.
Something that is it's not the best interest of Rav. Actually, we could just create a law right now to just send Rav all our Solana. But that would be awesome, right,
Yeah, buddy,
Rav?
I'll post my wallet address right at the all right, send it
Yeah,
all over.
right there, right in the right corner. But I think that that concept of recursive change
Mm-hmm,
between law
mm-hmm,
and society coming up with a consensus and creating law
mm-hmm.
is very, very it's like you get
But
someone who just does not
I
who
think
just
you're bringing up a very good point. I truly think to it. But if I was to give one more presentation on why I think you need American Union rather than just each individual country just working together,
it's a
is
great idea.
it's just a
But
name. Here,
what's the practical application? How are you
I'll
going to
tell you.
get these
I'll
countries?
tell you. Here's the
We
question.
don't
Here. I'll ask you the question.
we don't
Yo,
like these.
yeah, I
We
know you
don't
don't
like
like those, but
this
again,
is an airsoft, guys. This is an airsoft.
no, he's joking, buddy. All right, this is pure. All right, FBI, hunt him down. All right,
Damn it, Canada.
unlicensed. All right, listen. So
Hit
let's
Mark
just say,
Roman for it.
for example, if the USA wanted to conquer us, there is
Yes.
literally nothing Canada could do. The other countries could definitely come to our aid, but
I really wanted to I didn't
there.
want to interject, but
Okay,
you're more than right because do you think that Canada has to diversify into militarization?
there is nothing right now
Do you
Canada
think we need
has.
to, seriously? Do you think that when it comes to Trump and what the hell he's doing
Yeah.
in imposing threats on Canada, do you think that Canada requires to militarize? And would that be a good move?
No, I think militarization is always a good mood, right? Like keeping one aspect of
Canada.
keeping peace is mutual understanding of agreement. That's why atomic bombs haven't been used and nuclear bombs haven't been used because it's
Okay,
mutual
let's
destruction.
I like your answer,
Yeah.
and I agree too. I think every
Do you
country
think
should have a
North
right to
Korea
protect itself.
only had nuclear bombs and the rest of the world did not? How do you think it would take a place?
Completely rational.
Yeah.
But do we have the economic power to compete with such a big economy?
No,
Now that if you think
but that is not because of the fault of that's not because of the fault of that's how it's supposed to be. It's because of the fault of the politicians who led us down the path where somebody has literally 10x us every single year in economy growth.
so, you would agree that we are not responsible for voting these people in.
Oh no, we are 100% responsible for voting these people in.
So it really is the collective's issue, and
But
we
here's the
have not.
question. Here's the question. You know how Mark
Yeah,
Carney right now agrees to the golden missiles, right? Like so we now have the
yeah.
golden dome. What's to
Mhm.
stop the USA from just targeting us with the golden dome? He could literally take over Canada from the inside if he wanted to. The what I'm trying to say is this: the collective, the more intermingle we make our countries, the
Yeah.
better it is for everybody. It's not saying cut out Canada because I want to be one day prime minister. That's actually a dream of mine. But to become the owner, like for me to say, hey, we can do it ourselves is irrelevant. If I want to make sure that Ahmed, that your family is going to be in the best position in the next 10 years, if I want to
Yeah.
know in the next 20, 30 years that when you have kids, you're raising them in the number one country in the entire world, we are
Mhm.
not going to get there ourselves. We're going to get there by getting energy, getting all the utilities from these companies. For example, I just have a question. If right now, what did you study in school?
Law,
Law. If you now had the
immigration.
ability that 100 new law firms will open up in Calgary, will open up all around Canada, what will that do
Yes.
for people who are in your circumstance right now that can't find jobs? They have
It's just
opportunities.
it's a reduction in,
Yeah.
you're right, yeah.
And so if we like in Canada right now, here's the big issue, and I'll tell you what the big issue is. All right, we have a lot of talent, but a lot of our talent leaves for the states because they pay them substantially more. They don't pay them a little bit more; they pay them
Don't
substantially
get me
more.
wrong, we're not the only country that's losing that.
Now, of course.
A lot of people out of China, India, the globe, they I don't mean to phrase this the wrong way.
Hmm.
They're a reach for if highly intellectual, highly productive people
Hmm.
have two options, and it's usually a financial uh, move within the best interest, right?
Uh-huh.
So you're in a country, your dollar per unit per hour when you go to work in your country is lesser. You get an offer from the United States
Hmm.
that's really hard to, say no to from a financial. It's like financial suicide.
Hmm.
Like, do you want to earn $20 an hour? Or do you want to earn $1,000 an hour?
Of course, a
It's a
thousand.
no-brainer, right?
Yeah, of
There's more
course.
upside. So not only Canada, but the rest of the world definitely, Rev. They're taking the most. They're giving a value proposition
Hmm.
to these people that's unique to everyone else, right? They're not giving that to everyone. But unlike Canada, we literally just open the border. Everyone, come on in, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
And again, don't get
that's a
it
whole other
wrong.
conversation.
That don't get it
That's a
wrong
whole
that
other conversation.
immigration is bad. Immigration is literally the foundation of society. But if
It,
you
no,
don't
no,
build the
I get
infrastructure,
that. I don't mean to be black and white in my in what I
yeah,
suggest.
yeah,
What I mean
no,
to be,
I understand what
I
you're saying.
mean
I'm
to
saying it
be.
for the viewer because the viewer is not going to understand from past conversations me
I
and you've had.
think I think thank you for clarifying, because honestly that could be completely twisted from
Yeah,
what I'm
buddy,
trying
you're
to.
about to go on a poster, okay? You're about to go get
That's
hated
like,
on.
fuck immigrators. I think that immigration's good, but I think that it should also work to benefit both the person, both people within the immigration process, the person, the country, and the people that exist within that country, and the other country, people that exist within that country. There should be a mutually beneficial
Yeah, right
reaction.
now it's not.
What exactly? And one of the things that Canada doesn't do, again, not only the oil and gas, is they don't have programs to teach people about how what it means to be Canadian and how to operate in Canada. And so you have these people that have different political views than us. They've lived in different economic circumstances, and we think it's their fault because that's what I hear over and over again.
Yes, it's
They blame the person coming here, and they don't you don't do the due diligence of educating them. So who's to blame? It's the leadership,
everybody
and the
wants to
leadership
come to a
doesn't.
proper nation. Anybody wants to come to a position where they'll better themselves and their family. Never can blame somebody from India, from Pakistan, from
No,
China to come here
no,
because
no.
they want to better themselves and better the family. Right? You cannot hate. However, when your country understands, hey, we have one property available. Let's bring three people in. When we have
Right, yeah.
one car for every three people, when we
And
have
then
enough for
Carney owns
utilities
all of these
so
people.
that each one of these people have only
Yeah,
3 hours of energy a day, when you don't
yeah.
have that infrastructure in place, you physically can't do it because if you do, it's a burden to everyone. The
But
hospitals,
what's the core? What's the core?
the core is
What's the
government.
core of the problem?
The government.
You not only bring these what they don't even treat them like people. They don't
They
even
don't,
treat
man. They know they're
they
gonna sleep in a
literally
1 bedroom
they,
basement. That's not even good.
exactly exactly. But what I'm trying to put forth here is what's the core? Your causal relation. What's the narrative? They have a certain they have information about this certain country and the probability that they will vote for a certain political view,
Uh huh.
and they leverage the time that they have in power negatively. They leverage it. What I if you were to give it directionality, they leverage it against the consensus that currently exists in
Hmm.
Canada. The people that should be determining the laws should actually reflect substantive implications in the law and the structure of the law. Where as these people are voted in, they start to work in their best interest.
Hmm.
They start to bring 3-to-1 ratio for the houses, and they probably own property. Carney probably owns property.
He does.
I'm not trying to call
He's a very
Carney
rich
out.
man.
I think the core of the problem lies on a disconnect between law and societies. The idea of law society that they work recursively, where they're constantly perpetuating each other.
Yeah.
Law changes, society changes, consensus.
You know,
What I'm
we
trying to
let's
tell you is
let's hop back onto the conversation. We can go on
your
this topic
solutions,
forever. Yeah.
your solutions are very hard to establish.
They're
Extremely
difficult,
hard.
but you know anything that's going to be
It's
difficult.
worthwhile.
Exactly,
Yeah.
anything that's gonna be worth. I was about to say the opposite thing. So thank you for clarifying. Anything that needs to be done that should be done is going to be hard, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be able to one thing I really dislike in Canada.
Yeah.
It's a disagreement between people who are on this side of the country and this side. Man, we're all Canadians. We're not liberals. We're not conservatives. We're all Canadians. We can't forget that. You know, Barack Obama and whatever you think of Barack Obama, I think he's one of the best speakers I've mentioned to you. But like one of my favorite speeches, and he's like, "This is not a liberal America. This is not a conservative America. This is the
Yeah.
United States of America." And man, that line goes hard because we're Canadians. We have to think about what's the betterment of all Canadians. And one thing I think everybody can agree on: growing your economy by 0.5% in 10 years, somebody didn't do their job. Somebody did not do their job.
I didn't know
Somebody
that.
did
That's
that.
a statistic.
That's the real statistic. If you
You
look
tell me our population has grown and our productivity has went down.
we have
Seriously,
outpaced
seriously.
inflation by negative. Let me show you.
What I'm trying to explain to the viewers, not only have we grown in the number of people that exist and are available for productive
Okay,
work
I
that
just
can
want
then
this to be seen.
imply on the
In the
GDP, we
last
have
10
a
years,
reduction.
yeah, okay, and I don't know if you were able to see this. In the last 10 years, I'll just give it to you. The USA has grown by 20%. This is why I want to intermingle our economies because we get to backshot off of all of this growth that's happening. Second was Denmark at 18%. This last 10 years. Spain grew by 17%. Netherlands grew by 14%. Italy grew by 13%. Sweden grew by 10%. Japan grew by 8%. France grew by 8%. Australia grew by 8%. UK grew by 7.7%. Norway grew by 7.4%. Finland grew by 6.7%. Germany grew by
Yeah.
4.7%.
Oh
And
my god.
Canada
Yeah.
grew by 0.5% in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
There is something fundamentally wrong. And people who are trying to disagree with that are literally just trying to make it that the future generations of Canadians are going to suffer for our mistakes today. And we can't do that. So there's 100 solutions. My solutions may not be right. Obviously, by the time I try to ever go for power, my views will most definitely change. But I don't see a world where there's so much opportunity still that we're able to do to help our economy today, but people aren't able to do it. Doug Ford spending. I'm sorry, Doug Ford. All right. I saw a video of him trying to defend himself. You antagonizing somebody who holds so much leverage over us is me going to the bank that I owe $100,000 to and saying, "Yo, man, I ain't gonna pay this shit. Send it to my collections." You spent $75 million. Do you know how much money $75 million is? I know it might be a fraction of the
It's
amount
$5
of money
million.
in Ontario, but man, there's so many houses that can be fed. There's so many people who are about to lose their jobs that you can throw this and help them at least for a month or 2 months. There's so many things you could have done with $75 million, but you chose
My
to
question
pay
is,
USA companies to post an ad.
what you asked me is like, you know what $75 million is, right? So what I would add, how to add nuance to this would be in perspective of where you're predisposed at. Some people look. If you ask Elon Musk, $75 million is a lot of money. He won't tell you it's the same thing, right? He'll see it completely differently. What I'm trying to tell you is when we're coming up with solutions to problems that are societal, that affect everyone, and they affect everyone differently. What I'm really trying to bring to the conversation is I think a lot of the stuff is you cannot simply fix the stuff. And the reason that politicians go up and they
Say a bunch
and
of
so
words.
what I'm really trying to get across to the viewer is that when you come into contact with good leadership, you should not neglect it,
Mm-hmm.
and you should do your due diligence in identifying it when you see it.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything is gained from watching our rhetoric and our conversation, well, we're trying we're trying to discern the narratives of what's happening in contemporary society and like in today's world, and we're trying to bring up these topics just to make you think, just to make you think about these topics a lot more. And what that'll help you do is you'll join us in the attempt to understand the problems and the potential solutions that you can do, that you can employ on an individual level.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that because if you heard that Doug Ford did not diversify into energy,
Uh-huh.
um, you know, you should be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
because you have an understanding from the conversation we have right now that Rab not only understands that diversifying into energy is a good idea. He acts upon it. He tells you my investment portfolio is also within the energy sector. We're trying to build theses for you to circumnavigate the chaos that exists that is literally encompassed in Donald Trump randomly posting like a
GameStop.
they randomly decided to it's like and that will have effects on AMC and GME. I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I think the political rhetoric is important, but I feel like a lot of this is static and not changing, which is it does not represent the ideal scenario for
I think
anything political.
I'm a grown optimist, man. So like I see. I also want to talk about some beauty because we've been shitting on Canada for a very long time. But man, I love Canada. It's the most beautiful country, and it truthfully has the most beautiful people, and it has the most abundant resources. It literally you could feed your family forever on this land. But now, guys, when it comes to how the stock market is, none of this stuff is going to change overnight. All right, laws are probably the most difficult things. All right, laws are definitely so difficult to navigate, but real change can always be made. I do think that anywhere is gone. That's the beauty of being here in the West. Real change is anywhere, and you can make it. It just takes a voice. It just takes a video, a YouTube channel to come bring stuff out there, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, the verdict, man, is we gotta do. We gotta do it. We gotta do what you gotta do because we can't let the place die. That's the verdict.
Um, I think understanding the social like the dynamics, the what the actual intent is from the perspective of governments, and not how that correlates to narratives that play out in front of you, is probably what we're really trying to express.
Well,
We're
Ahmed,
trying to we're trying to conceptualize narratives and then use those narratives as reasoning and logic to take our best next step within our best interest. And Rav is doing so by investing in energy, investing in
drones,
drone technology,
real estate.
and I really come to the conversation when you talk to me about the economic implications that I can change in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ravinder would identify more with the political. I just think, and this is where we disagree, and I think that there's a lot of things we agree on, a lot of things that disagree on, um, that we might not even talk about. I think that the political structure is inherently going to service the rich. I am a pessimist when it comes to Karl Marx theory.
Mm-hmm.
He suggests that the end of capitalism, that the situation that we're dealing with will be the rich will have laws that are purpose driven for them and not purpose driven for the rest of
Mm-hmm.
society. And I've told you before in the conversation, I've talked about how the ideal scenario is society's consensus reflects law. So if I think the average viewer knew what the implications of Peter Lougheed's,
Okay, I like where you're going. Let's save it for the next video because, bro, I don't think you'll believe it. We're 57 minutes in.
that's sick, bro. If you want to cut it out, or
Here,
we could
yeah,
wrap it up.
let's cut it out now, guys. Thank you again for watching,
Yeah,
guys. As you can see, we're very
yeah,
passionate about this. And next week we'll go. We'll have me and Ami will have a debate, or not next week. We'll probably have another episode tomorrow.
awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you guys for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button.
Thank you, guys. Bye bye.